Hello students, this is Hasna and today we are going to start with the first chapter of class 9, The Fun They Had, from the book Beehive. Now this story, The Fun They Had, is a story which is set up in the future when books and schools as we know them now will perhaps not exist. So how will the children of the future study? So let's understand it with the diagram provided in the chapter. You see, the diagram says that the schools of the future will have learning through computers. They'll have virtual classrooms, moving e-texts and robotic teachers. Clear? Now, although some of them are not new to us, we have already started using e-books. We have also used virtual classroom because of this present lockdown situation. We do learn through computers, but then yes, till now the teachers have not been replaced by robots. Now let's know a little more about the story by going straight away to the story itself. Margie even wrote about it that night in her diary. On the page headed 17th May 2157, she wrote, "Today Tommy found a real book." Now Margie is the main character of the story. She is a girl of 11 years of age and she writes a diary on the night of 17th May 2157. Now the point to be noted here is we are in the year 2021 and this is a futuristic story. That means roughly about 138 I guess years from now the story is supposed to be occurring. Okay, so at that time Margie writes an entry in her diary and she writes that Tommy found a real book. Now why is it so strange? Because in her time real books do not exist. They only have e-books, the virtual books. So books in the format of print on paper are extinct, and so Margie is astonished to see a real book. Clear? Now it was very old book. Margie's grandfather once said that when he was a little boy, his grandfather told him that there was a time when all stories were printed on paper. Now Margie is reminded of her grandfather. He told her that his grandfather studied all the books that were printed on paper. So this kind of book is historical or ancient for them, something which they cannot believe, they can't imagine. Okay. Now they turned the pages which were yellow and crinkly, and it was awfully funny to read words that stood still instead of moving the way they were supposed to on a screen, And then when they turned back to the page before, it had the same word on it that it had when they read it the first time. Now, crinkly means when a paper has many folds or lines, sometimes it's crushed. Now Margie is talking about the book that Tommy had found. She says that the pages of the book had turned yellow and they had been crushed as it was very old. Now the children found it very funny to read the words which stood still. Now what does it mean by that words that stood still? See, as the words were printed on the pages, they did not move. On the other hand, the books that Margie and Tommy read were online e-books. So in the e-book, how does the thing happen? The text keeps on moving as your screen moves, but it was different in the books that were printed on paper. Now, Guy said, "Tommy, what a waste. When you are through with the book, you must just throw it away. I guess our television screen must have had 1,000,000 books on it, and it's good for plenty more. I wouldn't throw it away." Now, Tommy disliked the printed book. He said that it was a waste because he felt that whenever you complete reading a book, you have to throw it away. You cannot have this some different story written on the same book. On the contrary, he felt that the computer screen was a very good option because the same screen had shown him many books and still he could read many more on it. So he was very adamant that he would never want to throw the screen away when once he had read a particular story. "Same with mine," said Margie. She was 11 and hadn't seen as many telebooks as Tommy had. He was 13. Now, Margie agreed with Tommy's opinion because Margie was only 11 years old, and she believed that Tommy, who was 13 years old, was much more experienced and was able to have a better understanding of concepts. So when he said that he agreed that he would throw the books of the past were actually waste, Margie did not want to argue on it. She just straight away agreed. She said, "Where did you find it?" "In my house," he pointed without looking because he was busy reading in the attic. Now, Margie asked Tommy that where he had found the printed book, and Tommy replied to Margie that he had found the printed book in the storeroom of his house. He was so busy reading that he did not move his glance from the eyes. Now, what is an attic? You see, an attic is a space below the roof used as a storeroom. What is it about? School. School? Was there to write about school? I hate school. Margie always hated school, but now she hated it more than ever. The mechanical teacher had been giving her test after test in geography, and she had been doing worse and worse until her mother had shaken her head sorrowfully and sent for the county inspector. Now, Margie asked Tommy what the book was about, and Tommy replied that the book was about school. And immediately, Margie was not at all happy. She hated the word school, and she hated school even more because she was just thinking about how could a person write an entire book just on the topic school. Because for her, school was a place which she hated, and recently her hatred for school had increased even more because her mechanical teacher, especially the geography sector, had started giving her test after test, and she had been performing very poorly. And because of her poor performance, her mother had to call the county inspector. Okay, now who is a county inspector? Here, county inspector refers to a kind of a mechanic who usually is responsible for correcting any error that would occur with the robotic teacher. He was a round little man with a red face and a whole box of tools with dials and wires. He smiled at Margie and gave her an apple, then took the teacher apart. Margie had hoped he wouldn't know how to put it together again, but he knew how all right, and after an hour or so, there it was, large and black and ugly, with a big screen on which all the lessons were shown and the questions were asked. That wasn't so bad. The part Margie hated most was the slot where she had to put homeworks and test papers. She always had to write them out in a punch code. They made her learn when she was 6 years old, and the mechanical teacher calculated the marks in no time. Now, Margie, when the county inspector came, now the county inspector was a round little man, and he came to check the mechanical teacher. He had a red face and was carrying a big box full of tools with dials and wires, and he smiled at Margie, giving her an apple, and he took the teacher away for repairing. Now Margie just hoped that he would not be able to repair the teacher because she did not want that ugly black box of hers to be working all over again. But then she was utterly disappointed when the county inspector was able to rectify her teacher. Okay, now she says that she did not hate the mechanical teacher as much as she hated the slot where she had to enter her test papers, and which had to be written in a particular punch code which she was taught when she was only 6 years old. Okay, so that was something that she really disliked. She disliked that slot even more because it was the slot where she had to put all her homeworks and test papers. The slot is almost like a gapping. As you see in the ATM machine, there is a slot from where the money comes out. So like a similar kind of a slot was also there in the robotic teacher, where the homeworks had to be fed in. Now she had to write it in a special kind of a punch code language. Clear? So it was a punch code language here, means some kind of a computing language. And now, as soon as Margie would enter her homework in the slot, the mechanical teacher within no time would calculate her marks. Now, the inspector had smiled after he was finished and patted Margie's head. He said to her mother, "It's not the little girl's fault. Mrs. Jones, I think the geography sector was geared a little too fast. Those things happen sometimes. I have slowed it up to an average 10-year level. Actually, the overall pattern of her progress is quite satisfactory." And he patted Margie's head. Now, the county inspector said that Margie was getting bad mark in geography, not because she was not performing well. It was because the geography sector was not working properly. It was geared up a little to a higher level. Okay, so he also said that these things sometimes happen, and so he slowed it down to an average 10-year-old level. He said that sometimes machines malfunction, and that is why this thing can happen. Now, the overall progress pattern of Margie was quite satisfactory, saying that he patted Margie's head. Now, Margie was disappointed. She had been hoping that they would take her teacher away. Now, Margie was sad because Margie really wished that her teacher was taken away, that the inspector would not be able to repair it. Okay. Now, why did she think like that, or why did she wish for that? They had once taken Tommy's teacher away for nearly a month because the history sector had blanked out completely. Now, it had so happened that in the past, Tommy's mechanical teacher had been taken away for repair for almost a month, and he was enjoying his time as he didn't have any teacher. It had been taken away because the history sector had almost blanked out. So the mechanical teacher did not have any memory of it, and so it had to be taken away for repair work. So she said to Tom, "Why would anyone write about school?" Tommy looked at her with very superior eyes. "Because it's not our kind of school, stupid. This is the old kind of school that they had hundreds and hundreds of years ago." He added loftily, pronouncing the word carefully, "centuries ago." Now, Tommy was asked by Margie, why would somebody want to write about school? Because Margie just could not understand why would somebody like school so much that he would write an entire book on it. Now, Tommy was looked at Margie with a very superior kind of eyes, and he said that it is written on schools, but it is not that kind of schools where he and Margie usually go, because the book writes about schools that existed hundreds of years ago. He highlighted on the word centuries ago. Clear? Now, Tommy wanted to stress on the time period and said centuries ago because he wanted to make Margie realize that these were the kind of school which they had never attended. Margie was hurt. "Well, I don't know what kind of schools they had all that time ago." She read the book over his shoulders for a while, then said, "Anyway, they had a teacher." Now, Margie was hurt at Tommy's behavior, and she said that she did not know what kind of schools they had centuries ago. She was curious and imagined a group of children being taught by a human teacher. She looked over Tommy's shoulders, trying to read the book, and said that perhaps they had a teacher, and since a teacher was present, obviously school could not be an interesting place. Sure, they had a teacher, but it wasn't a regular teacher. It was a man. Now, Tommy here is referring to a machine teacher as a regular teacher because that is what they used to have. That means in the future they are going to have mechanical teacher, and for them the mechanical teacher is actually a regular teacher. That is the teacher they had, a machine. He said that it wasn't the machine, it was a man, human being, who taught them. A man? How could a man be a teacher? Now, Margie could not believe that a man was a teacher because she had always seen a machine doing that job. Well, he just told the boys and the girls things and gave them homework and asked them questions. Tommy tells that the man who taught the class discussed many things with the students, gave them homework, and then asked them different questions based on it, just like their mechanical teacher did. A man isn't smart enough. Now, Margie said that a man teacher, that is a human teacher, is not smart enough, intelligent enough as a mechanical teacher or a machine teacher. Sure he is. My father knows as much as my teacher. Now, Tommy asked Margie not to underestimate the human teacher because he said that he knew his father, and his father seemed to be a very, very knowledgeable person, and his father seemed to know as much as his mechanical teacher. So he told Margie never to underestimate the capabilities of a human being. Okay, so human teacher was supposed to be also knowing equally as much as what a mechanical teacher would know. He knows almost as much, I betcha. Now, betcha here means I bet you. So in fast speech, since he is saying I bet you, it sounds as betcha. It's almost like an informal thing. So Tommy could bet on it that human teachers knew as much as a mechanical teacher. Now Margie wasn't prepared to dispute that. She said, I wouldn't want a strange man in my house to teach me. Tommy screamed with laughter. You don't know much, Margie. The teacher didn't live in the house. They had a special building and all the kids went there. Now, Tommy started laughing. He found it very funny when Margie said that she did not want a strange man to come to her house to teach her. He said that the teachers of the past did not come to the students' house to teach them. They had a special building called school, and that was the building where all the teachers as well as the students would go. Okay, so they would be studying there, and they would learn a question or whatever they used to do in that particular building. But my mother says a teacher has to be adjusted to fit the mind of each boy and girl it teaches, and that each kid has to be taught differently. Now, Margie refers to a machine teacher, a mechanical teacher. She says that according to her mother, a machine, which is a teacher, each machine has to be tuned to the level of each boy and girl, because according to her mother, each child is different, and the level and the way something has to be taught has to be different and has to be adjusted according to the child. So each child has to be taught separately depending on their level. Just the same, they didn't do it that way then. If you don't like it, you don't have to read the book. I didn't say I didn't like it, Margie said quickly. She wanted to read about those funny schools. Now Tommy replied that in the past they did not do it this way, and he got irritated at Margie and said that if she is not interested, then she need not read the book. And Margie, who was very curious, who wanted to read the book, immediately justified that she did not say it like that. She wanted to read the books and she wanted to know more about the schools of the past, which she refers to as funny schools. They weren't even half finished when Margie's mother called. Margie, school. Margie looked up. Not yet, Mama. Now, said Mrs. Jones. And it's probably time for Tommy too. Margie said to Tommy, can I read the book some more with you after school? Now, when they had almost finished reading half of the book, Margie's mother called out and informed her that it was time for her to attend her virtual school. Now, Margie initially said that it was not time yet, but her mother insisted. Her mother insisted that it was time for her to go and attend her classes, and her mother also told Tommy that he too had to go and attend his school. Okay. Now Margie asked Tommy that if they could read the book together again when they had completed their school. Maybe, he said nonchalantly. He walked away whistling, the dusty old book tucked beneath his arm. Now, Tommy tried to ignore her and said that maybe she could read it. Okay, nonchalantly is when somebody is trying to show that he is not at all enthusiastic or interested in whatever is being requested or being told to him or her. Now Maggie went into the schoolroom. It was right next to her bedroom, and the mechanical teacher was on and waiting for her. It was always on at the same time every day except Saturdays and Sundays. Now, Maggie, she had no other option, and so she went to her schoolroom, which was just next to her bedroom, and the mechanical teacher was on and it was waiting for her. Uh, it was always the same time that she had to attend school. Only she got an excuse not to attend a school on Saturdays and Sundays. That means those 2 days were off. Okay. Now, why did she study at the same time? Now, her mother said little girls learn better if they learned at regular hours. Now, according to Margie's mother, a student here referred to as girls would learn better if a student studies every day at the same time. It's some matter of discipline. So if a student studies every day at the same time, follows a specific routine, obviously the student is going to learn better. Okay. Now the screen was lit up and it said, today's arithmetic lesson is on the addition of proper fractions. Please insert yesterday's homework in the proper slot. Now, Maggie sat in front of the machine, similar to a computer, and the machine was turned on. It said that day's lesson was on the topic addition of proper fraction. Further, it instructed her to insert her previous day's homework in the slot. Now, Maggie did so with a sigh. She was thinking about the old schools they had when her grandfather's grandfather was a little boy. All the kids from the whole neighborhood came laughing and shouting in the schoolyard, sitting together in the classroom, going home together at the end of the day. They learned the same things so they could help one another and the homework and talk about it. Now, Maggie, although was sitting in front of her mechanical teacher, okay, but still her attention was her whole mind was thinking about the old school. She was just thinking about the schools which her grandfather's grandfather had attended. She was thinking of the story told to her by her grandfather. Her grandfather used to go to these kind of schools, and as Margie is bored with the kind of teaching that this particular mechanical teacher does, she just imagines the amount of fun the children of the past had. She imagined how the kids came laughing and shouting in the schoolyards. They sat together in the schoolroom and they went home together at the end of the day. Now see, this is the life that you all are living at present, because you go to school, you enjoy, and I guess you are in a situation where you can actually understand what Maggie is going through at this moment, because you too are sitting in your home, okay, and due to the circumstances around, you are unable to attend school, and maybe you are also longing to come back to school, sit in the class, learn together, and be with your friends, with your teacher, present in the school, enjoy your class, play together, come to school together and go home. These kind of experiences you must be missing. So I guess you all are in a better position to understand both sides, because you have the experience of coming to the school together with all your friends, and now because of the situation you also have the experience of learning through virtual classrooms and learning all alone. So things are not as interesting as it is actually when you are learning together with all your friends. And the teachers were people. The mechanical teacher was flashing on the screen. When we add fractions 1 by 2 and 1 by 4, Maggie was thinking about how the kids must have loved it in the old days. She was thinking about the fun they had. Now Maggie was thinking about the kids. She just was thinking about the fun they had. Now the author ends the story with the title of the chapter, The Fun They Had. The fun the students had when they went to real school. You see, Margie is just thinking about the kids of the past who went to school and enjoyed studies. And actually, frankly speaking, you learn better when you actually are enjoying things. And when do we enjoy learning? When you are learning things together with your friends. That is exactly portrayed in the story. Clear? So I hope this chapter is clear, and I hope that I was able to do justice to the story. Thank you.